Hello and welcome back to IT Security Labs, and thank you very much for joining me tonight. I'm very excited to be sharing with you an OSCP like machine where we'll practice our ethical hacking skills. I also have a lab with Elastic SIEM where we can detect the events that are happening as we do the attack. So if your goal is to really learn information security skills and you want to learn hands-on skills in a lab environment that is safe, that is free to set up, this is a wonderful stream for you. And if you're really going for the OSCP, this is definitely going to be something that is going to teach you some skills that are necessary to actually pass the exam. So thank you very much for joining, and congrats, Rodnet. It looks like you passed this weekend. Congratulations for passing the OSCP this weekend. That is awesome. And it's good to know that this material is working. So thank you. All right, so without wasting a lot of time, I set up a new lab this week. I actually set up the Elastic SIEM. Instead of Security Onion, today we're going to look at the Elastic SIEM, and it's running on my server here in the back. You probably can't see it, but it has 24 cores, 135 gigs of RAM, and it's lacking on some disk space. But so far it's doing well. We are actually detecting using Suricata. So after attacking, we're going to come back in here and really see what that looks like after the attack has happened, because I'm very curious as well. This is my first time interacting with Elastic SIEM in depth, so we'll all learn a few things here. But other than that, we are attacking my machine called Wait, what did I name this thing? This one is called Untroubled. I was thinking of Unbalanced. It's called Untroubled, and the reason why I named it Untroubled is because it's a very easy machine if you know how to attack it. It can be very difficult if you are unfamiliar with how to attack it. So without wasting time, let's actually start by doing a simple ping here to my machine. 1 and 2 to 1. I passed the OSCP with 100 points, and I just decided I'm going to make Windows machines to help the community, to show you that you can have enough practice. This is the 7th machine in this series that I just made. They are all 100% Windows, and I can almost guarantee that if you practice with all these 7 machines, you're going to earn a lot of skills that will help you a lot during your OSCP, because Windows is people's most weakest point. So if you are serious about passing the OSCP on your try, I highly encourage you to crack this machine on your own. I have a link in the description to download it, and also try to do it without following my advice here. There's a couple ways to do it. So yeah. So now that I have an IP address, just like in the exam, you can start by running an nmap -sv -sc on all ports. On our IP address 192.168.38.108. That's my IP address. So what this is going to do is, this is going to be Nmap going for service version to tell us what versions of the services it finds are. Then SC is going to use default scripts to try to see if there are any vulnerabilities that are known by some default scripts. Then this P here is saying, give me all TCP ports instead of the top 1000 ports. I want all TCP ports. That's what this is saying. And then, of course, the IP address. This is one way to do it, and it's a very effective way. But as you can see, it does not include UDP scan. So when you hit enter here, you will get results that look like this, because this is the same exact command here. So SV for service version is going to tell us, hey, we found FileZilla. We also found that this is the version for this FileZilla service that we found. And of course, in this case, we have FTP Anonymous allowed. So in the spirit of learning, we know if you see Anonymous allowed, what do? You sign in with that Anonymous right away. So you do FTP and you sign in. So let's do that right now. All right, before I start going on these results, I also wanted to share with you a tool that I used, which is really great. It's called AutoRecon. You need to go to GitHub, download AutoRecon, or install AutoRecon on your Kali. Then you just point AutoRecon on your target. 192.168.38.108. AutoRecon is a wonderful tool. I used it for the OSCP. It was very, very helpful for documentation. So if you run AutoRecon, it will take a while. And when you run AutoRecon, first of all, you need to go to GitHub and install it if it's not already on your system. Then you just point to an IP address. When you run AutoRecon, this is what it looks like. It will go through the system. As you can see, I ran AutoRecon against my system. Since it takes a while, I wanted to save you some time and respect your time and show you the full results. It will run a full TCP scan. It will run a quick TCP scan. Then it will do a top 20 UDP scan. This is gold here. Because usually people don't know how to run UDP or they forget. AutoRecon will do it for you. So right now, as you can see, we ran Nmap, and if it finds any other tools, any other services, like in this case, it ran on Enum for Linux, which is another tool for enumeration. It will run things, Nmap SMB, because it found 137 there. So once AutoRecon is done, let me show you what the results look like. It will create a folder called results, and that's what you will use for your report. Then it will put the results by IP address. 38. Then in here, it will have scans, report, loot, exploit. Let's go to scans. Look at all these results from AutoRecon. This can be very, very overwhelming, but I'm going to tell you a little trick when you use AutoRecon. The first thing that you're going to need is this TCP quick. This can really help you, especially if AutoRecon is still running. You can check that to see what happened. But the most important one is the TCP full. That one you're going to need for sure. So all you need to do is just cat the files. So in the exam, you have 5 machines. You can run AutoRecon against all 5, and then you can just come and start looking at results. In this case, I'm looking at my full TCP scan, and as you can see, it's very thorough. It did a full TCP scan, and it found all the ports even better than the one that I had done. So that's the first file you need to do. If it's Windows, you also want to check SMB client. This will really save you from remembering a lot of commands anyway for enumeration. Because if you forgot how to properly enumerate SMB, well, AutoRecon does it for you. In this case, we don't have anything on SMB. So we're actually eliminating the ports that we found earlier by doing this. So far, we're eliminating some of the SMB ports by just looking at through AutoRecon results. Okay. Then when AutoRecon finds that you have more things to do, it will go for 21 if you didn't already do that for FTP. And it will be like, hey, this is what I found. I found out that we have these in here. So the idea here is use AutoRecon if you can. Don't get overwhelmed with the results. Still look for the common services after you do the scan. A lot of these RPC scan, ports here are going to be useless, or you might have some information there, but I'll check them last. I will not really waste a lot of time on them here. I'll check SMBs first. I'll check the full TCP scan, FTP of course, but if it found HTML, HTTP, it will automatically run Nicto for you, which is really nice. You and I know Nicto is very, very good, especially when it's Linux boxes and they're running HTTP services. So you can cat a Nicto here. Let's see what on 2390 what Nicto found. In this case, it found a default IIS server, so that's not helpful. But AutoRecon will get you the results that you need. You need to practice and really get good at that, and you will really appreciate AutoRecon results, especially if you have to write a report afterwards. The results are all there. So back to our enumeration here. FTP anonymous is allowed. First thing you do is right away FTP 192.168.38.108. Anonymous is allowed. I forgot to type anonymous here. No password. Okay, where is this FTP directory located? That's the first thing. When you do a dir in an FTP and you saw that there's an IIS default page running and you also see that FTP is running, first thing is when I get in here, I'm looking at, is this shared with the IIS server? If this is the root of the IIS server, I'm going to upload my reverse shell in there and execute it and get it. So if you see FTP, is it the root of any website? If it is, you are in business. You might as well just see if you can write there and put your shell. That happens all the time. In this case, it's not. It looks like we are sharing the public user desktop here. Files here. But there's only one interesting one called FTP, where if I do a dir, I see nothing in there. Then you can check all these here. There's nothing on the desktop. I guess you can do a dir on all of these. You will find out that very quickly there is nothing in there that was put by me. But in the spirit of proper enumeration, I encourage you to literally look in every directory that we have. This time, this was a rabbit hole. This is what they call rabbit holes. Being able to find out, oh, there's nothing, even though it says FTP. But this rabbit hole doesn't end here. If we go back to our results, it actually says, hey, by the way, it's FileZilla, and we have a version here. So you, because you are the proper attacker, you don't move on until you find out what's up with this version of FileZilla. So you go and you start Googling. You can go to Exploit DB. That's the best one. So it looks like we do have an exploit here. In fact, there's another machine from Hack the Box that probably showed the same here. So I encourage you to read that right up, see if they used that as well. But going to Exploit DB, we need to read this. So FileZilla server terminal, that looks like this exact version. That's promising, right? But reading here, FileZilla server, this DOS. What does DOS mean? It looks like this is a nice buffer overflow, but is it going to give us what we need? What does DOS mean? Can somebody tell me in the chat, please, what DOS mean? Because a lot of people, when I gave them this machine, they ran this exploit on the system. And I'm very curious if anyone knows what DOS mean and if you would run a DOS exploit on your system that you're trying to compromise. Let me know in the comments here. Because I'm very interested. There's a few people that did run that exploit, and I'm wondering if they read what that meant or what that is. So I'm curious if people can let me know in the comments as well. So that was our FTP. Yes. Little bit says it's a denial of service. So that's, you probably won't see this in the OSCP because they probably don't want to causing denial of service. But when I made this machine, I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, this is not going to work. I'll put it there. Then I heard people saying the machine is showing a lot of blue screens. And I was like, why? Then I asked them, which exploit did you run? They were running this one. So I guess even though this was a rabbit hole, it's also a time for us to learn, right? If it says denial of service, stay away. You're not in the business of doing a denial of service now. Right now, we want to break into the machine, so maybe we'll stay away from this for now. All right. So after doing that, we move on from FTP. We still need to keep it in mind just in case we miss something. But for now, we know that was a rabbit hole and that's not the way in. So we move on to 445 and 139 here to see if there's any shares on this system. This is where our results here shine from AutoRecon. You can go to AutoRecon and check Enum for Linux share. So let's actually do that. So I've done a bunch of machines. This is just a few. But some of you probably recognize these ones, like Ferry. I think this is from Hack the Box. Right. So our AutoRecon, when you run it, it will put results in the results folder. And if you know that there's SMB shares there, you need to use AutoRecon. It's very thorough. I don't think you can do it any favor remembering all those commands than just using AutoRecon. But of course, you need to know how to do these things manually. But also, another part of being an attacker is to do these things efficiently. There's no need to spend 30 minutes interrogating SMB shares. Okay. So as you can see here, we have SMB client.txt. I'll look at that. But my favorite one for sure is this Enum for Linux here. This one usually tells a story if there is something interesting. So right now you'll see that we don't have any shares, because if they were there, they would be showing up here. If this was a domain controller, you'll be also seeing a bunch of information. So this Enum for Linux file here is very, very interesting. Of course, you also have SMB map, which it runs. If you are curious what commands it ran, they are in here. Of course, 445 not open on that system. So we know 445 here is not going to really let us in. Then says, does FTP allow you to enumerate internal ports? I don't think you can enumerate internal ports from FTP. Maybe I'm not understanding the question, but I don't think that's possible. But if you wanted to move on from 445, look at these files here. This one, and Enum for Linux. They will tell you very quickly, because one of the things that you need to do as an attacker is you need to know these things, how to do them by hand, manually when you're going through Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, Proving Grounds, and things like that. But you also need to take yourself a step further to quickly and efficiently enumerate and move on with confidence that you did look. I mean, you might not be 100%, but you need to have some confidence that, okay, I know 445 is not going to give me anything. I need to move on. And that is a very, very important skill, right? Because if you cannot move on and you're still hang on some services that are running, you might be out there for a while. All right, so did I just lose my Nmap? All right, so let's go back to our Nmap results. And this is why having these results is important, because I don't have my Nmap anymore. So far we looked at FTP, we saw nothing. SMB is not going to lead you anywhere. Of course, you need to do more enumeration than what I'm doing here, but I'm just showing you the methodology. All right, this is a lot of information. The biggest thing that you want to do is calm your nerves and don't panic. This is a lot of information to go through, and having a step-by-step methodology that can really assure you that you're doing the right thing is going to be important. If you're all over the place and you are not sure if you even know what you're doing, just being bombarded with all this information is going to confuse you and throw you off balance. So that's why looking at 139 and 445, I think we are going to move on. RPC is the last thing I check for just me, RPC is always open by default on Windows, but you can also check it right away. So which brings us to 2390. So this port here is very interesting. First of all, someone went through the pain to open HTTP on some random 2390 port. That is the first thing that I notice is who opens a port on a high random number. Is someone who thinks that if I open a random port somewhere, is security through obscurity, no one is going to see it because people don't do a full TCP scan, or for whatever reason it's some random service. So that interests me, and the fact that a random high value port is also running a default IIS server is even more suspicious. That is 10 times more suspicious. Why would some random high value port run IIS server? If this was running a normal service right away, I'll be okay, but this makes me want to interrogate this port more. And let me introduce you to some random ports that Windows opens as well that used to get to me. This is remote desktop. Get familiar with these because they can help calm your nerves. Another port that we're going to be seeing all the time for whatever reason is this 5357. And I don't know why that port is always open, but it will be there. But of course, we have a bunch of other ports here. But know which ports are always open in Windows by default. That will really help you focus on interesting things. So for now, we know this port here, something is up with it. So let's go and check it out. So it's 192.168.108.2390. All right. So 2390 takes us to a default IIS page. Like I said earlier, this is not enough enumeration for a default IIS page. Let it be known to you and I that if you see an IIS page that is default, you don't move on. You do something else before you move on. I mean, there's a high chance there's nothing, but there's also a high chance that there's an administrator somewhere who believes in security through obscurity who is hiding a service here. And it's a thing. So what do we do with this? Someone let me know in the comments, what else do you do to a default IIS install, whether it's on 80 or not? What is the next logical thing here? I'll show you, while people are commenting here, I'll show you where to find some interesting information about that service using our, of course, AutoRecon results. So AutoRecon would have found the index.html for the site. AutoRecon will also run a nicto like I showed you earlier, but it will also run an Nmap. It will look for the robots.txt. It will also run a whatweb, but this is a default IIS install, so we don't expect anything here. We don't expect anything. Thanks, Dan. Dan says, if you see a default installation, bust some directories. You need to go and bust some directories. And in fact, AutoRecon does, it runs a nicto. Oh, there's no go buster for this? I thought, for whatever reason, I thought there is an AutoRecon go buster. So let's go and bust some directories here, because that's what we have to do. We don't move on from that until we are happy that we actually know what else is there. So let's bust some directories. On that note, I'll introduce you to Go Buster. I'm using my notes here because there's no value in me showing you me typing this. So we said, hey, Go Buster, we want you to run in dir mode, in directory mode, on this URL here, using this word list. This word list is from seclist, medium.txt. I want you to run 60 threads. In fact, if you do a hit enter here, GoBuster will go in there and start to look for any directories that exist on this service. And here I had a big lesson for everybody, because one of the feedback that I got from a lot of people, here's some statistics. I've made 7 machines. In my last machine, I think about 16 people succeeded in getting root. In this machine, I think it was about 5 or 6 that told me that they succeeded. A lot of people on Reddit sent me messages, said, I cannot find a way to root this machine. I'm pretty sure these are very smart people. And it was because of this thing that we're doing here. So we are busting some directory. This is the default stuff, right? We all know seclist, web content, directory list, medium.txt, and we put some 60 threads here. This is going to run. It will run for a while, right? It will find, I'll tell you right now, it will not find anything. And you will move on thinking, well, there's nothing, right? Which is unfortunate because the definition of you saying I've done everything is not running GoBuster using just one word list. I'm pretty sure a lot of you can tell me in the comments there are at least 5 word lists that you can name that are common, especially the ones that say web content. So the biggest takeaway for me and everybody was, unless if you got lucky and you ran the right word list here, you were not going to find anything. If this didn't find anything, as an attacker, you owe it to yourself to say, okay, the medium.txt didn't find anything. Maybe I need to try the big.txt. Or I can try another word list from seclist as well, another web list, word list. So let's try another web word list. Same thing, GoBuster, dermod. This time we're using web content, raft medium words.txt, and 60 threads again. Look what happens. So this is going to run and it's going to find a directory. So the biggest takeaway here is when you sit there and you get frustrated and you say, I have done everything, nothing is working, you need to take a step back. Really, have you done everything? It's common knowledge to you and I right now that, well, if one word list doesn't work, I need to try another one. But when you're under pressure, maybe that may not be the case. If you really are like stuck, I'm stuck, start asking yourself the obvious, like, okay, I ran GoBuster, but was that enough? Maybe I need to try word list from seclist. Maybe I can try the common.txt and other word list here. So let's let this one run. And while it's running, let's go back and check on our intrusion detection here, because this is where the money is at, right? Let's choose this to the last. I'll just say 2, even though 1 will be fine. Oh, that is interesting. Look what just happened here. This is the Elastic SIEM solution. I loaded the rules, the default rules. I didn't create any custom rules. So there are 2 parts to detection with the Elastic SIEM. There are some alerts, these ones, that get generated by the SIEM solution itself. Then there are alerts that get generated by Suricata. Those are different alerts. And these ones here, you can tie to threat intelligence. So if you know that there's a file hash that's going around and it's already reported to one of these threat intelligence feeds, you can create a rule that will actually fire and show up in here. So right now, in our intrusion detection system, you see nothing was happening all this time. As soon as we started our attack, it started going crazy. So that's one thing to note is alerts will fire. If you're doing this in a production environment, your security team is going to be onto you. They're going to be like, what are you doing? If you're doing this for a client, you will probably get busted in 2 seconds. So these tools are really not going to hide. Yeah. Rod says there is also an ISS where listing seclist. Yeah, thank you. So what I just wanted to show you is that the alerts here fire when we are running all these tools, especially AutoRecon and everything. And it's a very important thing to understand as you attack things, what the alerts will fire. So these are the default alerts. Let's look at Suricata alerts. Suricata is an intrusion detection system. So I'm looking in the last 6 hours. Look at this. This is insane. The amount of alerts that we triggered by just running a bunch of tools. So as you run tools, be aware of what those tools do as far as what do they trigger. because that's a very, very, very important thing. But we'll come back to these later. But for now, let's go back here. Look at what happened here. We found a directory called blog engine. This, like I said, can be set up by an administrator. I used to be that system administrator who would think, wow, if I hide this, the attackers are not going to see it. So I'll hide my blog engine behind the default ISS install. But of course, you and I as attackers, we know we are going to try to bust some directories there, and we're going to use all kinds of word lists until we find something. So right now we found blog engine. So let's go and do that. All right. Yes, Dan says, are those alerts or traffic? Because there isn't any other traffic on the VM. Yeah, so there's alerts and there's also traffic. So if you look at Suricata here, there's Suricata events, which just shows, a bunch of events. Then the alerts themselves are actually coming from what we're doing, because there isn't much going on that machine other than what we're attacking. Yeah. All right, so this is a blog engine here. So we can bust more directories here. You can actually run go bust again against blog engine, or you can go to the internet, educate yourself. What is blog engine? How does it work? Is there any exploit? There's multiple ways you can do this. There's a directory traversal here. So this, I just saw that it's a blog engine. So first thing is I'm like, okay, tell me what you know about blog engine. It runs on Windows, so we're in the right path. We don't know that this is the version. We need to verify that before we get too deep into this exploit. But so far we know. And reading this, it tells us, hey, by the way, there's a /admin directory. Or you can bust some directories. However you do it, you will get there. So /admin, and sure enough, we get an admin page. Oh, this is more interesting. I remember 4 weeks ago making a machine, and I was so fired up. I was like, if you see a login page, what do you do? Because if you are like beginning to attack, you need to know, I see a login page, do yourself a favor, right? You go out there, you see a login page, before you even do anything, you need to try a few things, right? Admin, password. Nope, admin, password, admin, administrator, password. Those. You could have gotten in here without even Googling blog engine default credentials, because that's the next thing you can do is you can go to the internet and say, hey, Google, can I see what are the default credentials for this? And Google will tell you, hey, by the way, username is admin and password is password. Right? So if you are going to be attacking any system, Google the default credentials. If they don't work, most of the time they won't work, but you will be surprised how many administrators out there, are very lazy, and they will leave things to default. And I was an admin who made this box. In the OSCP, you might see default credentials everywhere. So don't get tunnel vision. But of course, if the credentials don't work, think about other credentials that you found on the box, like from the FTP or anywhere else. So far we are in, but we need to verify a few things here. What is the version? Usually it's in the about or info. We see that version is 3.360. And this is 3.36. So it looks like we might be in business here. We found a directory traversal or remote code execution. I'm more excited about this than this, because remote code execution is money. Directory traversal might be more work. So we need to do some reading here. This is not a Python script. This is just an exploit. And being able to read people's exploits and understand what's happening is money for the OSCP and just in general to know, okay, they're saying there's a path traversal, and they're talking about a file manager that allows you to upload files. I'm not going to read this for you here because we are actually doing this live. But one thing that they say is you can upload a file by going to this location here. And then you need to modify this exploit here, this script that they gave us, save it as a file. I think they say that right here, that it will not work if you save it as something else. Let's see, where does that say? It needs to be edited as postview.ascx. That's the name that you need to save this file as. And then you need to modify this file to meet your target needs. And that's very important. So now this is a game over. Reading through this, we don't know what's going on. We have no idea what language this is. We just want to see what is it doing. I see some sockets here. That's exciting. Sockets connect to me back. So here is IP address, which even if you didn't know, I'm just assuming like you have no idea what language this is. I mean, it's in C, of course, but you're like, okay, I'm not familiar with this, but you know, you and I know, if you see an IP address in an exploit, that it has to be your IP address and a port. Then it says we need to upload it by visiting this page. Then once we upload it, to trigger it, we need to visit this directory here. We just read this is as simple as exploits come, right? So first, let's make sure that we save this exploit and edit it and save it as postview.ascx. So let's go to Kali. I'm going to go to my temp directory here. Temp. I just need a clean place to work. Temp within temp. Okay, so I have a clean directory here. First, I don't want to be downloading from the internet just in case I mess with my thing. I do search exploit. What is the name of this thing? Blog engine. Right? Maybe you could have started here. This looks like the one that we were talking about. We also have a Python here, but this is the exact version. So why not go with the exact version here? And we do have this one right here. So let's use search exploit and download that. -m will download this for us. All right, now we have it here. Maybe I should have read it before downloading it. But 46 CS. This looks like what we were reading from the browser, right? It's exactly the same thing. It says we need to save it as okay, he said we need to save it as this right here. So let's actually, this is what I'll do. I'll say, give me a copy. I don't want to just move it. And I would like you to save it as exactly what they said. Now that looks better. And all I have to do in here is change. Let's see what I can change here. Thanks, Sugar Scout, for supporting the channel. I appreciate those who are members. Someone today was telling me that I should be submitting this to try hack me so I can get $500 for every machine. So for 7 machines, I could have been rich by now, right? But I really appreciate those who support the channel, so thank you. All right, so I need to put my IP address here and also change the port there. So my IP address is 192.168. 38.60. I believe it's 60, but just to make sure, of course, if you're in the exam, this will be the tunnel IP address. But for now, this is my IP address, and I'm lost within my terminals. All right, so we put 60. Let's put a random port here so we can track it later. 4488. So, no, let's leave it to 445. Because I already did this. So this is all we did for the exploit. If you are unfamiliar with editing exploits, this exploit here, you will sit there scratching your head, wondering like, oh, how do I use this? What is happening? But really, just reading through this, that's what it's talking about. And you need to practice reading other people's exploits. There is a pattern to all this. People are usually very good at telling you how to use their exploits. And hopefully when you start writing your own exploits, you can write good ones. All right, so now that we saved that file, that's all we need to do. We need to get that file to the victim machine. So let's go back and sign in. So we signed in as an admin. The next part says you need to upload it by editing the admin app editor, edit post dot whatever this is. So you copy that, you paste it after /admin. I'm saying this, I mean, some people are like, well, that's obvious, right? But this might not be obvious to others. App editor, edit post, then you're like, okay, what happens there? We'll be creating a post. That's what this is going to do. It's going to force us to try to create a post, and it will actually, I'll name this one shell post. It doesn't matter what you name it. And then according to our exploit, it actually says once in the current version, this is done by editing a post and clicking on the icon that looks like an open file in the toolbar. Okay. Icon that looks like an open file in the toolbar. This is the toolbar. It's this file manager. Upload. We went to the temp folder. Actually, other locations. Let's go to the temp folder. We also had a temp folder, and here's our post view that we just created right now. Open. Then it's uploaded correctly. So just to make sure, because I'm like, did it actually work? Yeah, it's there. Publish. All right, we published our post. Very simple exploit, very easy to get in, and no headaches. We didn't have to do anything any funny business there. So once we're in, let's start a listener. Netcat -LV and P4445, which is a port that gets caught by intrusion detection systems everywhere anyway. But hey, we are going to do it on 4445. So next, finally, the vulnerability is triggered by accessing the best URL for the block engine with theme override. So we access it using this. It's just question mark. I'm copying that. And let's use the one here. So we didn't have admin. We just went to here. If we hit enter, it hangs. Actually, it says an unexpected error. Let's see if it actually worked. It didn't work. Did I not read that right? Not /admin. It's just in the base URL. So that should work. Let's see one more time. And so what could have happened here? Let's make sure that this thing is working again. Let's upload it again. Did I say post? Or let's go to post. All right. Let's do it again. Not sure why it didn't trigger. Did I not save it? Okay. I already see my mistake. Look at this name. postview.asc. What does the exploit say? You're missing an X. Of course it's not going to work. It literally says, note that this file must be uploaded with this name, ASCX. And I somehow, when I copied, I named it that. So let's fix that. Let's move that to the I thought I had the correct name. What happened there? All right, let's upload it again. We're going to delete this one. In File Manager, we can delete that file. Okay, let's upload it again. For whatever reason, I thought I had... Okay, let's try. It's the same file. For whatever reason, it's... Is it really saving it with the... Okay. Let's save that. Someone said it was the port wrong. Let's see. Okay. Cat. All right. Let's do it again. Oh, we're listening somewhere, aren't we? We're listening here. All right, so let's go back here. Oh, that's better. It's hanging. If it hangs like this, if you see it spinning, that's good news when you're trying to get a reverse shell. If it cuts right off, you know bad news. So, whatever. Now we're in. Who am I? I want to see all my privileges. Once I'm in is one of the most useless users of all time, right? IIS, this is the IIS user. This user has no permissions here. There's nothing interesting going on for it. You can look here, see like what things happen. Of course, you can get root by using this. I warned people that not to use this. I leave it there because one, I don't know how to fix it, and two, if this is your first time doing Windows, you should exploit this first. Then look for another one. This is a common vulnerability using some potato stuff. Tomatoes and potato, rotten stuff out there. Rotten potato? Rotten tomato? I always get them mixed up. But you can get root using this. It's a kernel, it's a very easy exploit. But that's not really helpful for us. So this brings us to, what do we do then? First, I would like to go to you can go to the C and do a dir to see if you can see anything in the C directory here, because administrators do like, what is this? What is that? Like install backup? Really? The password.txt. It's not cat. In Windows, it's type. There's nothing in there. Okay. go to the temp directory. All right, let's see what's happening in here. So this is the temp directory, and there isn't much going on in here. All right. The reason why I like to work in the temp directory is because this is where you bring up your Windows privilege escalation tools, like the likes of WinPs. Wow. All right. So of course I do have the privilege escalation awesome scripts suite. You need to get this from GitHub if you don't already have it. It's awesome. Then you can copy WinPs from here. I showed last week how to run WinPs. It's very, very helpful. For the sake of time, and also, I mean, it's WinPs. You can run it, save the results to a file, and look through the results. Or another option is you can catch this shell using MS of Venom, not MS of Venom. Metasploit, reverse shell. Then you can use exploit suggester to see if you can get reverse shell. I'm a big fan of just doing things by hand at first. First, I really, really encourage you to check this directory here. These three directories: program files, program data, program files times 86. Those are going to tell you a story most of the time. Not always, but you will get to know like what's running here. What did they put? So let's go to program files. Of course, I need to do this now. This is Windows. It doesn't care about quotes. I mean, caps. So if I do it there, in program files, we see nothing of interest. These are all default things that come with Windows, except for Google Chrome here. That's something new. You can also see Mozilla here. If you see Mozilla and Google Chrome, there's a few attacks for those where they save passwords and things like that. But of course, we're not going to go for Google Chrome. We do see FreeSwitch, which is very interesting, right? Because if we go back to our results, we did see that FreeSwitch was running on another higher port somewhere. But before I start throwing any tools like WinPs, LinPs, I have to sort things out with any service that shows up in here that is not normal. I have to see if that service is going to give me something. So before I start throwing tools and looking at a bunch of results, go to program files, program data, and also program files times 86. Check those. In addition to FreeSwitch that we found here, another manual test you can do is netstat -a, I think n works here. When you do this, you want to look at, okay, what are we listening on? And is there any port that I didn't see earlier that I can see now? You're more interested in ports that says 127. These ones will probably not have shown up in your Nmap. You want to interrogate these ports, see if they actually showed up or if they didn't. That's another thing you need to do. And that takes time, and that takes also practice and discipline. You get to know some of these ports. Some of these are the RPC ports. You should be able to eliminate them, especially these 49 ports here, the RPC ports. You need to eliminate them like right away. But that FreeSwitch thing that we saw actually runs on 8021. So if you did your search and you found, oh, we still have FreeSwitch, I would go here and say, okay, so exploit, what do you know about that thing? All right, I see 2, which is interesting. A Ruby file and this text file here. And it's that version. If you go back to our Nmap results, actually, we know you will see that this is the version of FreeSwitch that shows up there in our Nmap results. Let's verify that without making any assumptions here. And look what AutoRecon did. Gave us all the results here. Let's just grab the word free. Really? All right, let's look at all the results. We just want to verify, is that the same version before we go too crazy here? 80, oh, I should have grabbed by the port. All right, so from our results here, 80, what was that port again? 8021. This one. It says FTP proxy, disconnect notice, goodbye. Okay, what is this? Oh, here it is. 8082. This is the information that I was talking about. So we see that we get, do we get the version here? It says bed socket. It actually doesn't tell us the exact version. But that's fine, because we're going to try it anyway. All right. So going back here, we see FreeSwitch. Let's actually just do a Google search for FreeSwitch, privilege escalation, or exploit. I see the same remote code execution. Here's another opportunity for us to read again. It was tested on Windows 10, which is what we have. And even though we don't know the version, actually, we can actually find out what the version is in the configuration files if we read them as well. But I'm not going to do that right now. It looks like we just have a point and shoot exploit. It's literally saying, hey, by the way, here's a Python script. It's written in Python 3. And you point and shoot. But there's a caveat here. It says FreeSwitch listens on port 8021 by default, and you accept and run commands sent to it after authenticating. By default, commands are not accepted from remote host. This is what makes it a privilege escalation tool. This will not run if I just run it right now. So please help me by saying, how then would I be able to run this script on my system if commands are only accepted from remote host? This is kind of similar to what I had last week, where you kind of have to think, you're not told, but you kind of have to think, well, if I cannot run commands from a remote host, what can I do then? How am I supposed to run this against port 8021 and still be able to execute? I don't have Python on that system for sure. So let me know in the comments what you think. How can I bypass this? Dan says port forward. Let's port forward the hell out of this one. So if you are not thinking, you would have ran this earlier and you'll be like, well, this is not working. Why is it not working? Here is a line that will catch you. So we know we have FreeSwitch. It only accepts from remote host. So let's do, Dan suggested chisel. Let's do chisel. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to port forward, and according to this, I can just run the exploit and say, who am I? I'm not interested in running the command, who am I? It does not pay. I would like to get a reverse shell. So let me generate an executable reverse shell using MS Venom. That's my choice today. I could call it Nisheng in addition to this. I can run netcat. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. You have seen me do that on this channel. But right now I just want to go straight. MS of Venom, generate an executable reverse shell, and then we can call that reverse shell by replacing this command. So before we do anything else, let's do that right now. Let's use MS of Venom to generate a reverse shell. And by the way, I have notes. These notes here, it's my shopping list. You can also use that online tool that I showed you last time. But for now, let's just use MS of Venom and generate a reverse shell here. I'll show you the one that I have. I'm not going to encode anything. I'm just going to say, hey, MS of Venom, generate me a payload for Windows times 64, because I know it's a 64-bit reverse shell. I'm not going to even use Metapreter or anything like that. Localhost is going to be my IP address. Local port 555. I would like it to be an executable and output it as reverse1.exe. So if I upload this reverse1.exe, I can call that. It calls back. I get a shell as administrator, hopefully. So I would like that to be put to my victim machine. In addition to that, I would also like to move chisel to the victim. Of course, this usually hangs a little bit. I'm not going to wait for that. I already generated one. Same way, called reverse.exe. It's a bunch of gibberish. So we know it's an executable file. All right. In addition to the reverse.exe, you need to put the chisel client to the victim. So these are the two files that I'm going to move. Chisel for port forwarding, reverse.exe, so that I can actually execute reverse shell. Now that those two files are in there, I staged them. I just use Python 3 -m http.server on 80. If they don't let you get files from HTTP servers, you might have to do an SMB share here, which is fine. But Python 3 does wonders. So let's first move the reverse.exe. And for that, we use setutil. cdc Windows temp. All right, if I do a dir here, I don't have those files yet. I have a bunch of noise, but I'm going to use setutil here. Say, hey, setutil, move me a file from this URL here. It's called reverse.exe. Move it to C Windows temp reverse.exe. It should be in here after this. Moving files, like I said last time, should be the easiest thing. You should not struggle with this. If you struggle with moving files and things like that, you need to go back and really work on that. It's reverse.exe. I've been burned so many times by files that I move this way, so I always look at the size. If you see this one in 3 digits, it's probably a corrupted file. Remember that netcat file that made me spend 30 minutes walking in circles here because it was not moved correctly? That was 2 weeks ago. If you watched the stream from 2 weeks ago, I was losing my mind because I was moving a netcat file and the binary was getting corrupted as I was moving it. So reverse has been moved. So now let's move chisel. So I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, someone says, "Oh, what does setutil do?" Oh, setutil is like a wget. No, that's grossly bad analogy. It's a tool that will download files for you. So it says setutil. Wow, it comes on Windows sometimes. Sometimes it's not there. So if it doesn't work, use PowerShell. But setutil will download this file here from this website, which I hosted using Python here. You see, I got a 200 OK here. And it will move that file to this Windows temp directory. This is how you move files between the victim and your local Kali Linux machine. So if I do a dir, now I've moved 2 files from my Kali to the victim, reverse and chisel.exe. So now we move on to chisel reverse Chisel tunneling. This is going to do some port forwarding for me, and this GitHub page here will teach you how to use Chisel, and it will explain things too. So tunneling is a very new concept to you. Don't go to the OSCP without knowing tunneling. I will tell you that. Just make sure that it's one of those things you need to know, just in case you see it there. And this would show you how to install it and also how to run it. And there's a nice explanation here. Another blog that actually shows up all the time, this one works better. It will explain what tunneling is. So if you are not familiar with tunneling, SSH tunneling or Chisel, I highly encourage you to read about tunneling. But here's the idea. We need that. Remember, our exploit is complaining that, hey, commands will not be run from remote host. Your command will not run from remote host. So that means that we can only run the command from local host. The only problem is we're on a Windows system. We probably haven't installed Python in here. And we really don't want to be going through the process of installing Python in here because we don't know if we can. So what do we do? Let's port forward that port that it's actually seeing. So here's the command that I have for Chisel. From within the directory where I downloaded my Chisel, I'm saying, hey, Chisel, run in client mode, connect to my Kali Linux on port 9002, is some random port. But when you connect there, make sure that you share port 8021 with them. And they can access that port as local host, and they can access it as 8021. I'm literally saying, hey, take this port, send it to them, and they can access it as local host. But of course, before I hit enter here, I need to, on my Kali Linux, start Chisel and also start it in server mode. So my Chisel is in here. This is what I got from the GitHub. And Chisel, I need to make it run it in server mode. So the server here is going to listen for a reverse port on 9002. The other side is going to forward the port to this one. So right now I'm saying run in server mode. Give me wait for a connection on port 9002 from anyone. This is dangerous, of course, but that's what we have. So let's go to our victim and say, oh, by the way, send a connection to this host on port 9002 and forward them port 8021. So if I hit enter here, this will hang. It pretty much took my shell here. But back here, I connected. So that's how Chisel works. Now I have a tunnel. I just need to make sure that my exploit works. So let's go back to my machines directory. Now we need to put this exploit to work. Instead of running FreeSwitch.py against the remote IP address, we're going to put localhost here because that's what we did. We need to download this exploit. So you can download this exploit and save it as a Python script. I'll name it exploit.py. So the process of downloading it, you can just download it by hand. You can download it using wget. Doesn't matter. Nobody really cares, right? I have it here. That's the same exact exploit that is on the internet. Trying to be efficient here by saying, hey, copy this. You can copy using nano and things like that. But if you're attacking Windows, I'm assuming you kind of know your way about creating files and stuff like that. So here's our exploit.py. Does it have to be a random port? When you run this command here, this port could be any port. It doesn't matter. It could be any random port. In the OSCP, you might want to use some ports that are already open on the victim because this might not work. But this here has to be the port that you want to work on your victim. But this port here, I just used the default. I think there was an example I followed. It's always on 9002. Yeah. But, all right, let's go here. So we have our exploit from the internet. So we call it Python 3 exploit.py. Let's use it the way it was written first before we start making any funny business here. It says to put the IP address. We know better. It's localhost. Who am I? And guess what? We can execute commands. Now that's fun. If you see this, it actually gives us NT authority. So we need to replace who am I with our reverse shell that we executed earlier. That's why I was prepping for us. Like if I just need to now say, okay, hey, instead of who am I, run this thing. I need to put quotes here. It's in C, Windows, temp, reverse.exe. Right. But what does reverse.exe listen on? 555, because that's how we did it, right? So first, before we run this, we need to listen 555. Naked minus LV and P 5555. So we start our listener. Now we're ready to execute. You need to remember, I did upload using setutil reverse.exe. And here's a quick tip for you. I didn't mention this as I was doing it, but what usually happens is when you run your chisel, it takes over your session. So I needed to put my reverse shell before I ran chisel. Otherwise, I would have had to cancel and put it back again. So that's why I put the reverse right before I did chisel. So if you're planning on doing any tunneling, move all your files ahead of time. Then you can do a tunnel, because as you can see, this is holding my shell in ransom here, and that's not ideal. All right, so now we have a listener on 555. And now we also need to, I lost. Oh, now we also need to just hit enter here. Where's that window? So this is the Windows system, reverse shell. I'm just going to go through one by one. This is the chisel. Oh, here. Now we just need to run this. Instead of who am I, we're going to execute the reverse shell that we put in the temp folder last time. So let's do that. We put localhost here because we tunneled, of course. Now let's hit enter. It should say authenticated. I don't know what it's going to say there, but let's look here. We got in on 555. It's FreeSwitch. We say, who am I? We're NT authority. So it's game over. We actually successfully got a reverse shell. So just because you saw a service that is running and it's on all ports, that might be the way in. And this gives us a lot of practice. So now we can go to see users. We have user Mickey. And here, if you say type and here is the flag. So the flag that you see here is not the one, that same one that I put a different flag for the one that was the public machine, because it's a fun one. You need to decode that one. But of course, always check FTP Anonymous. Check every running port. Banners. If you see banners, try to read them. Look for public exploits, especially from Exploit DB. Know how to read exploits and do that with confidence and with ease and with speed. If one fails, always try another one. And of course, enumerate and enumerate and enumerate even more. When you think you've done everything, take a step back and think, what else can I do? Because that's really going to help you a lot. So that was how to exploit the machine. And if you did not see, or if you started halfway through, I highly encourage you to watch. It's a really fun machine. I had so much fun even making it. But we have unfinished business. What's up with this? What's up with this intrusion detection system, right? Let's put it to last 2 hours. So we do have the Elastic SIEM solution. We don't have Security Onion today. We are actually using the Elastic SIEM solution. And I did put Suricata on it, because Suricata is really fun. But the Elastic SIEM solution comes with really interesting features that you might want to try. So I'm just reloading everything here. And it also comes with threat intelligence. I'm very excited to be actually using this feature here, the threat intelligence feature, to make detection rules, because this can actually apply to real life situations. This threat intelligence is always fun. So I encourage you to install the Elastic SIEM solution. It's very easy. I'm running it on a server. Mine is overkill, 24 cores, 135 gigs. It's because I'm actually doing some serious testing for Suricata. But you can run this in a virtual machine. But right now it's running on a Dell server with 24 cores and 135 gigs of RAM. So this is what we did. We committed a crime. Now we need to investigate ourselves. Oh, this is why my videos never get monetized by YouTube. I use strong language like that. We committed a crime. Most of my videos don't get monetized though. So someone was saying from Reddit like, hey, you're promoting your YouTube channel. I don't make money from these videos. Just know that. I make money from those who support the channel, but I don't make anything from YouTube, because I use the word hack a lot, the word exploit. The algorithm hears that, they think, oh, this is terrible stuff. So here's what we did. Notice around 9 here, events spiked. This is when we were running. All those tools, especially GoBuster, DirBuster, AutoRecon, and things like that. This is when all the action happened. You'll notice that after that, it kind of baselines again. So the first thing is, if you're brand new to information security and you're like unfamiliar with how alerts work and things like that, right now I'm looking at the events. Let's look at the alerts by signatures. It's the same deal. So this could be an indicator of not an indicator of compromise, but this is an indicator that something is happening in your environment. Your baseline is nothing really happens here. We have 1 or 2 triggering every day. Then all of a sudden, bam! We got a big spike. You as a security administrator, you'll be very interested in this. You'll be like, what was happening there? Especially around 9 p.m. on a Sunday night when nobody's working. So that should interest you right away, of course. Then you can come in here and check. But here's all the alerts that were triggered from Suricata intrusion detection. This is just explicitly Suricata. A bunch of course, most of these were triggered by the tools that we were running. So they're not interesting. They're just alerts that were fired by default. The alerts that excite me, in addition to the Suricata, are these from within the SIEM solution. Because the reason why I get excited about these is because I can actually create my own rules in here to detect specific things. But also, this one gives me a chance to really learn about SIEM solutions hands-on, because you can create rules, you can construct rules. You can also look at Suricata rules and create your own, but these ones are easier. But as you can see here, we also triggered some almost the same type of alerts and same behavior spike around here. That's the first thing that we see. Let's look at some of the boring stuff. I guess potential bad traffic. some of these rules didn't fire as much as I thought. I have to say, I'm actually disappointed. Next time I'm going to add an endpoint for endpoint security, so that it actually detects. Was from the network perspective, it didn't trigger as much, but it saw 14 potentially bad traffic. So let's filter by that. There's so much you can do in here. You can create an investigation by clicking here. But right now, I'm not interested in creating an investigation. I just want to see what do you mean potentially bad traffic was happening here. Okay, I move myself out of the way. All right, it saw some traffic from, let's see, who was involved. Yeah, this is probably Microsoft. That's not interesting enough. All right, let's remove the filter. I'm more interested in traffic that came from us. And for that, if I just wanted all the traffic that came from Kali to the victim machine, I can say source.ip. I'm using the Kibana querying language here. Equals to let's do 192. I think that was 60. Then do an AND. Destination IP of 192.168.38.108. Yeah, it was 108. Okay. So this query here is going to give me the traffic between those two systems. Come on. Let me change my time here to make sure that it works. Last 6 hours. Okay, that should catch everything. Let's put it back. I don't know why Kibana querying language is not liking me today. 192.168.38. 68 or 60? It's 60. All right, so I just want to see what was happening between these two systems. What did they say? And I'm using the FileBit module here because FileBit is what's sending all the events here. And of course, I get all kinds of traffic here, which is not as interesting. So let's do let's search for our port here. Source.port. Maybe destination port. I think you can tell I don't do this for a living. All right, so destination port of 4445, you can see this is what we have here. Apparently, this version of Kibana, let's hide that chart or show chart. It will filter the traffic for me, but here is instances where our port of 445 was actually caught by the intrusion detection system. In Security Onion, I'm able to see the data decoded here. But for now, we can see we did catch that from source IP of 108, because this is the one that was reaching back to us for a reverse shell. And we did this multiple times, of course. I did it a few times for practice and things like that. So if you knew what the ports involved were, this would be a good way to do that. So getting familiar with the Kibana query language is very, very interesting because it's the same as the Splunk program language. It's similar. Most of these things are the same. If you can search in one, you can search in all of them anyway. What other port did we use? 555. This destination port should also be coming from 108 as well. That was our system that did this. So I'm just picking on one here to see. And I have to say, the Elastic SIEM is failing me. Security Onion is very, very like, okay, here's the network decoded. Here's your PCAP. I think what this thing shines on is endpoint security. Or I need to know how to use the network data better. I'm just used to Security Onion and I'm not enjoying this as much. But at the end of the day, we did trigger some rules. I'm pretty sure that most of this generic protocol decode are coming from one of the tools that we ran. So let's check one of those. Yes, I need to create more Kibana dashboards in here. All right, I'm just picking on one Let's see. Yeah, this is just a bunch of, but it looks like it was from my victim to the system. What rule triggered this? Maybe I can see more. This generates a detection alert for each external alert written to the configured indices. Anyway, okay, what is the rule? Okay. So this is one of the generic Elastic rules. I enabled them all by default. I literally like went through the whole list and was like, give me every rule that you have. I enabled them. Some of them, they need more features to be enabled. So as you can see here, we have more things to do and also learn how to use this thing. But one cool thing that this does way better than Security Onion is host-based intrusion detection. So I need to enable Fleet and run this. I'm going to really try to get better at this because it's more fun. If you want to practice creating incidents, you can click on this. See, even after running this thing on bare metal, it still spins. So the only thing that I'm not doing is SSDs. And I don't like spinning. All right. You can come in here and create an event. You can create some correlation. You can see some correlated data in here. There's more you can do. As you can see, the analysis is not fun today, but I hope you can see that we still triggered a bunch of rules. We still got our reverse shell. Once I know how to track down my things here, I'll be showing you in future videos. But if you're very interested in learning, this right here is the best way to learn. If you can install this and play around with it, I think you're going to learn even more, especially how to just read network traffic, how to understand when things fire and things like that. For now, I will answer any questions that people might have. Thanks, BT. Appreciate it. Yeah, we did have. Oh, I was wondering. When I was looking at this, it was port 9002. That was, remember the 9002? That was the Chizo port that got caught by this SIEM here. I almost forgot about that. When I was looking at it, I was like, what port is that? It was the Chizo port that got caught. But that's what we have here. Yes, then I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's one thing to just attack things and move on. It's another to really attack and go and look like, okay, I wonder what GoBuster does. I mean, if you've been running GoBuster for a while, you owe it yourself to go and see like, oh, how much noise does GoBuster really generate? I can tell you that Nmap generates about 9,000 events for some random port and things like that. And Nikto is louder than Nmap and things like that. BT is asking, is the free Elastic? Yeah. Elastic SIEM is free, 100% free. It doesn't come with Suricata though. You need to install your own Suricata. And let me show you how I'm running it, if you're curious. Oh, I guess it disconnected, but here it is. I'm running Docker containers for everything. So you can have an Elastic SIEM up and running in 10 minutes if you wanted to. You can find it on my GitHub page as well. I have Docker containers that you can have running. So it's running Elasticsearch in Docker. I'm running Suricata in Docker. I'm running Kibana in Docker. And I'm also running a TIG stack for Grafana for monitoring. But you don't need these. The ones on top you don't need. You just need these three here. Everything is Docker. Someone is asking, Dan is saying, does it take less resources than Security Onion? I'm yet to find out. I think Security Onion is better. This thing here, as far as resources are concerned, you can see here that out of these 135 gigs of RAM, I'm only using 28. Why am I using 28? It's mostly because of Elastic. Let me see if my Docker monitoring is working. No. All right, my Docker monitoring broke. I was able to see that Suricata was actually taking way less. It's the Elastic engine that takes a lot. So if you're going to run it, make sure to at least run it with 12 gigs. As you can see, I don't have a lot of disk space. I have too many cores to use. This is not necessary. This is just a whole server, because I like to see how these things really work when set up correctly. That's why I'm putting it on this, but it does take a little bit. Running it in Docker is the best. I have not seen a difference between running in Docker and on bare metal. That's why I just use Docker. It's almost the same. When I was doing performance testing, it's almost the same usage. So highly encourage you to just go and throw everything in Docker if you can. Run these containers and you'll be good. All right. And if you want to do that, here's where I'll show you a GitHub repository where you can find that. I found this online. I didn't make this. I consider myself a scavenger. I go online, try to see what people have done. Then, of course, I put it together. So this is someone's repository that I forked, and of course I modified it to my needs. Like theirs didn't come with Suricata. I modified this Docker Compose file here, and then I came in here and I was like, well, the most common one out there, the Elastic SIEM you see, does not come with Suricata. So I was like, oh, I need to take Suricata. I'm also going to take Zik in here, just for fun, so I can have two. Then, of course, this is the only change I made in this Docker Compose. Oh, yeah, I did make some changes. Then, if you go back here, you also notice that I also modified the file bit module for Suricata. This is what's sending the data. So it's hard-coded here. I could have put this as a more intelligent value. And of course, we are following security best practice. Elastic password, you need to change these if you're going to be using this repository to set up your own. Change this, change these. Just be aware. Hard-coded values are not good, but I didn't seem to want to spend too much time there. So git clone this on any Ubuntu machine, Ubuntu 20. Set up your monitor interface, run Docker Compose app, and bam, you're in business. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the best way to learn. I think that if I saw someone someone show up for an interview, if I were hiring and they had an Elastic SIEM running in Docker and they can actually attack a machine a little bit, that person is really appealing to me, compared to someone who shows up and say, I got this degree from this college, and what have you done after your degree? Nothing. I've been sitting around looking for a job for 4 months. I mean, that person, wow, they might be a great person, a person who practices and really pursues these things on their own and finding what interests them might be more appealing to employers out there. So I just encourage you, if your goal is to look for a job, I've seen people have better results when they can maintain a GitHub page and also do things like this. So that's what we had there. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like these videos, YouTube will keep promoting them, even though they keep demonetizing them. I think I need to start sounding more polished and stop using the word hack a lot. Every time I say hack, the YouTube algorithm wakes up and say, whoa, don't give them money. Good thing I don't care about that much, because that would not be ideal. But if you want to set that one up, highly encourage you to do that. Especially, I'm mostly interested in, like I said, the threat intelligence stuff. I haven't dove into this yet, but this right here just fascinates me, because you can, I pulled threat intelligence information from all these open source locations. It's already on my SIEM. I can feed this information and make rules to do real world detection. For example, if we see this hash show up, we might actually be able to do some real detection. I still don't know exactly how I can combine them, but that just piques my interest. So if you set up this SIEM solution and you end up using this threat intelligence stuff, please let me know. I'm very, very interested in this. In the future, you might see me spend more time using this threat intelligence data combined with Suricata rules and the Elastic SIEM rules, which is just amazing stuff. It's just, I don't know. I just get excited even thinking about it. When time allows, hopefully sometime, I'll spend some time there digging in. And that's how we learn as well. All right, it looks like we did spend some time here. Thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Make sure to join next week, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have been doing these live streams for a while, I think over a year now. People have been joining. The idea is if you can watch every Sunday, even if you're not doing it, you are going to be better. You're going to improve even just how you see security, how you see things. I most likely benefit the most because I'm the one doing it, so I encourage you to do it. But if you just watch me, it will really keep your learning going, and also you will actually learn a lot. And I have a question here. So you have the SIEM set up on the VM you're using for attacking? No, the SIEM is not running on the same VM I'm using for attacking. No, I have a VM running here. The SIEM is right here. Then I'm just mirroring traffic using a port, a switch, a Cisco switch that is just mirroring traffic. It's mirrored traffic. Which is really nice. Dan says, so you can create rules for more obscure tools. Well, there's a lot to creating rules, right? You can create rules for traffic that you are seeing right now. You can create rules using threat intelligence data that is out there. You can create rules all kinds of ways. It depends on how you create rules. Bigger companies have teams that create rules for them. But I have created rules in the Elastic SIEM by just seeing an alert that fired that I didn't know about and say, okay, set that as a rule. And that will actually create rules. And most of the rules you can also open source. It's not a tap. It's a mirrored port from Cisco Meraki. It's a Cisco switch. In fact, I'm going to move to a tap because Cisco switch, I am not paying for my Meraki license. They're about to put me out. Yeah, so these are the rules that are there. These rules come in by default and they were made by other people in the community. They're free rules. The goal is you start making your own rules as well as you see traffic. But for example, here's a rule that someone wrote where they're looking for a custom query here where if they see start with the process, I think this is the command line here, and they're downloading a file. This is on the host. It will actually trigger something. Yes, it's a span port. It's a span port on Cisco. When you do span though, don't span only one like less than a gig interfaces. Just try to find a gigabit switch if you can. It's just so that you get the most out of it. I do have a network tab. It's 100 megs. I don't use it because it's too slow. Yeah, I have a network tab that I used to use, but 100 megs, just too slow. So I choose to just span the traffic from 100 gig port. But if you want, you can create rules as well. And there's money in all these things here. Highly encourage you to learn. Of course, this is like a broad scope of security from attacking to creating rules to deploying intrusion detection systems. So you might not know it all, but being exposed, but not really becoming an expert, you will find one of these things that interest you. That's the goal. it's not for you to become an expert in all of them. As you can see, I don't know any of what I was talking about with threat intelligence. I'm just interested in seeing what happens with it. And hopefully we get better. So join every Sunday. Learn with me on this journey. Obviously, I'm not an expert, and I'm hoping that as we learn, we keep doing this. 5 years from now, we'll look back and laugh at how we used to struggle with reverse shells. 5 years from now, we'll look back and say, man, we came far. And that's the idea, right? So thanks for joining. If you join late, watch the stream. You really don't want to miss it. Otherwise, thanks very much, and I'll see you next week.